Hey, guys. So this week, I want to talk to you about regulating your nervous system in order to receive. Now, you may or may not be aware of the power and importance of receiving when it comes to manifesting the life and business that you most deeply desire to have. So there's a couple stages when it comes to manifesting what you want. First, you have to be able to know what the heck you want, right? Secondly, you have to be able to envision it and believe it and fully embody that feeling that, yes, it's already there. And then you have to be able to sit back and allow it to come to you. You have to allow it to be delivered into your life. You have to allow it to plop into your reality. And so it's so important. Receiving is such an important part of the process of manifestation. And yet we often don't think about it this way. I know that I talk a lot about, really getting clear about your vision. I talk a lot about really getting clear about your next aligned action steps, but I don't always talk a lot about receiving. And so that's why we're having this discussion today. So receiving can be really, really difficult for folks who are high achieving, who have always felt like they have to go it alone, who may even have that fighter instinct that everything is basically reliant on them. This goes back to some of those ideas that we've been talking about a lot lately, that when we feel as though we are part of the divine fabric of the universe, when we are part of the whole of all that is, when we are something connected to something more, we can finally relax and feel as though we don't have to carry the burden all on our own shoulders, right? So often in our life and in our business, we feel like we have a boulder on our shoulders, and that boulder ends up feeling like a burden, which can make our business feel like a burden, which can make our manifestations feel like a burden. But the truth is, when we can acknowledge and really trust that we're part of this divine fabric of the universe, we can see that we're only ever carrying a single grain of sand of that boulder, because that weight is distributed amongst all that is. That weight is distributed amongst all of the support that we're always receiving at all times. And yet when we are used to coming from a place where we've had to go it alone, when we are used to coming from a place where it's all been up to us, where we can't rely on other people, where we can't rely on other things, where we have maybe trauma from the past, or we have expectations that people or structures or things are just going to let us down, what happens is we don't have the capacity to be open to receive. A way this shows up in 3D life is often we don't have the capacity to receive from other people. Whether that's receiving help from other people, when people offer us help. Oh, do you need help getting that off that shelf? Oh, no, I've got it. I can handle it myself. Or if it's receiving things like compliments. Maybe compliments feel difficult for you to receive because it feels as though you can't trust what comes from other people and you can't trust what comes from the outside because you're so used to being in that fight or flight response of fighting for everything you have, that hyper independence that is actually a trauma response. So this is why we really have to understand, to get what we want, to manifest what we want, we have to be open to receive. We have to be open to this divine intervention that wants to give us a hand, that wants to reach down and be like, here, let me give you a leg up. How can anybody give you a leg up, or anything, or the universe or whatever, if you're not open to receiving that leg up? And so we have to be open to receive. And part of this, the most important first step, is regulating your nervous system so that it feels safe to receive, so that it feels safe to receive from other people, so that it feels safe to not always have to do and push and carry that burden on your back at all times, to not feel as though you have to go into that hyper-independent response that's that fight or flight response where you always have to go it alone. So when you feel like you can't sit back and relax to receive what you want, you are probably coming from that trauma, that stress response, that, conditioning, that subconscious conditioning from the past that says, I can't rely on anyone or anything outside of myself. I am in this by myself. And that's a really lonely place to be. And it's a place that feels really hard, heavy, burdensome, as we talk about a lot. when things feel hard, heavy, burdensome, guess what? Our subconscious mind is going to hold us back from it, which means we won't get it, which means we won't manifest it. And so when we're not open to receive, when we're not thinking that we have support all around us at all times, when we don't have community, when we don't have connection, what happens is the thing feels stressful that we're trying to create, even if the thing we create or trying to create is something that we really want, like more income or more freedom or to be able to travel or whatever. When we feel like it's all on our back because we're not open to receiving this divine support or real life support from other people or, all of these different things from community and stuff, we end up feeling as though it's overwhelming. And again, our subconscious mind will hold us back. So here's the thing. When it comes to manifestation, you've really got to understand that the quality of your energy really creates what it is that you're trying to create. So if it feels like a burden because you have to go it alone, because you're coming from this hyper independent fighter response, when you get the manifestation, if you can even manifest it, if your subconscious mind isn't holding you back from it, it's going to feel heavy and like a burden. And this is why I talk so much about creating a business that comes from this place of pleasure and joy and delight and feeling as though you're epically supported and that you're connected and that you have community, is because those are the things then that will be there when you have the business that you want. So this is the essence of really understanding that receiving is an essential part of the manifestation process. So what do you do in order to shift this with your nervous system? Well, we have to come to this idea that being supported isn't a dangerous thing. And I know that might sound weird to say that being supported can seem like a dangerous thing. But when you have trauma in the past, or people have let you down, or things haven't come through for you, then relying on something outside of yourself can actually feel threatening, can actually feel dangerous, can actually feel really scary. It can feel like a free fall or a trust fall. We've all done those trust falls before, right? Where you stand there and you close your eyes and you just fall backwards and trust that somebody's going to catch you. Well, that's the essence of receiving. That's the essence of being able to let go and surrender and trust that the universe, other people, the world, opportunities will be there for you. That's the essence of really building in that belief. And ironically, it's also the essence of dealing with self-trust. We often think about self-trust in this hyper-independent way. Self-trust means I only have to trust and rely on myself. Self-trust is also about being able to really lean into the idea that no matter what happens, even if somebody lets you down or the world lets you down or the opportunities aren't there that you want, that you can trust yourself to deal with it. And so self-trust has many layers, and it's not this hyper-independent, I have to go it alone and that's the only way to go fight response. Instead, it's this sense that I'm always safe no matter what happens. I can trust that I can handle whatever comes my way. So one of the problems that we encounter when it comes to this relaxing our nervous system in order to receive, is that we really, really need to understand that we so often swing in the pendulum, right? I talk a lot about the pendulum. We swing from that hyper independence that I've been talking about, that fight response, that I've got to go it alone, to feeling as though I'm not going to do anything. Hopefully somebody else will be the white knight in my life and will rescue me because I can't even deal with this, right? So how do you get in the middle? You actually come from that relaxed place. You come from that place that integrates all pieces instead of feeling as though it has to be an either or. Whenever we're coming from an either or, we are basically narrowing our field of vision, we're narrowing our perspective, and we're not open to all opportunities, right? So if we're talking about receiving, if we're talking about manifestation, if we're talking about all of these things coming into our life, that needs to be open to all perspectives in all ways that can pop into our lives. Whether it's somebody coming up to us and offering us $1 million in a nice little bag that has money signs on it, right? Like in a cartoon. Or it's somebody offering us a new opportunity, or it's us having a brilliant idea, or it's somebody delivering it to our, surprise. We just find it on the street. All of those things need to be open. And so all of those things are not either or. Either it's all you or it's all somebody else providing it for you. It's I'm open to all the beautiful, magnificent, awesome, different ways that these things might pop into my reality. And so when I'm open to all of these different, beautiful, delicious ways that these things might pop into my reality, then I'm truly surrendered to receiving the thing that I want, no matter how it comes. And I'm no longer attached to it coming a certain way. And I'm no longer attached to it looking a certain way. And I'm no longer attached to it being this thing that is associated with, the either or, that I have to fight for it, or somebody's got to bring it to me and I don't want to do anything in order to make this happen. So hopefully this gives you a really good sense of how our nervous system is really involved with our capacity to receive. Because when it feels stressful to receive from other people, to receive support, our nervous system is going to get contracted. When our nervous system gets contracted, guess what happens? We give our subconscious mind feedback that this thing isn't safe. It's not safe to receive support from other people. It's not safe to rely on the universe. It's not safe to surrender. It's not safe to say, it doesn't matter the way it comes. And then what happens is we narrow our scope and we narrow our capacity to manifest what we truly want in our life. And so what we need to do instead is we need to relax into the idea that it's safe for it to come in any way, shape, or form, and that we're not in this on our own, and we're not by ourselves, and we're not, down a river on a shit canoe with only one paddle. There's always something or someone in the back seat paddling, whether we can see it or not. And so you are always supported. You are always epically supported. And when you open up to that channel within you, to that divine connection, to that realization that you're part of this, divine fabric of the universe, and that it's, you're not carrying the boulder on your own, and it's just a grain of sand because it's distributed, because there's always support around you, suddenly manifesting what you desire becomes a hell of a lot easier. Having the business you love becomes a hell of a lot easier. Having the life you love becomes a hell of a lot easier, because you don't have to do it alone. There is nothing better than a sense of community, than a sense of support. And I want to encourage you to embrace that for yourself as well.